This is the HTML editor training for Denari, part 1. The HTML editor is found in various places throughout Denari. It's used to format sections of online community in the giving options, for example. It's used in the sponsored name records. It can be found in the letters section when you are using the RTF printing method for receipts, and it can be found as an email option from name segmenting. That's where we're going to work with it today. But the methods used here can be used in any of its locations in Denari. So let's start by going to the Donors tab and then Name Segmenter. And I've already got a name segment started for us here, so we'll click on that. Now, the segment can be used just like a normal name segment in that we can use our filters page here to identify the names that we want to send email to. And then over here in the Output tab, we're going to come to this Output option field and come all the way down to the bottom and click on the HTML email segment file. And here we can choose a from, where the person that's sending it. This is usually a list of your staff people, and so you're going to choose who that person is who's sending the email, and you would have set that up ahead of time, obviously. You do that, by the way, under the Miscellaneous tab up here. And then you're going to type in your subject, and then finally we'll click on the HTML editor. The HTML editor, as the name implies, creates an HTML or a web page for you by using the interface. The interface is somewhat like a word processor page, as you can see here. Let me move this down just a little bit so we can get it in our screen. You can type text here, bold things, underline, change the color of text, etc. And the editor then turns that into HTML code in the background. So let's take a look at that. We'll just type a sentence. And then here we'll click on the HTML button that takes us to the HTML view. And there you can see it's put what's called a P tag, an opening and a closing P tag around that sentence. It assumes that it's a paragraph, and so it goes ahead and sets that up in that way. So that's kind of what happens all along the way. You can do anything you can here with a web page. You can insert pictures, you can work in tables or divisions, you can use CSS or styles to format your pages, and so on. The more familiar you are with building a web page, the easier it will be for you to use the editor, but you can use it to create basic email messages here if that's all you need to do. We'll spend a little bit of time here doing some basic things, but it's beyond our scope to be able to teach you about web design. But the main thing to understand is that you can be as simple or as complicated based on your abilities here. One thing to note, the editor is a third-party program that has been purchased and installed in Denari. And it's just like any software, it comes with its own little set of quirks. When you type a sentence, for example, as we've seen, it turns that into HTML. Usually it does a good job of that, but sometimes it makes a mistake. This is the third HTML editor that we've tried, and they all have their own little set of problems. This is the best we've been able to find so far, but just know that there might be some minor frustrations along the way. But I don't want to be too negative. Many people use the editor successfully to send out email, and in those other places in Denari. So let's start. We've already got a sentence here. Let's insert a picture. If we were doing a newsletter, for example, or just a simple email, we might want to put a picture with our text. And so we'll come to the Insert Image button here, and I'll go ahead and click on that, and that opens up our library, our photo library. These are photos that we've already uploaded. And so if there's not one here that we want to use, we can come up here to Upload, click that button, and this takes us through the pretty standard Windows type of dialog boxes. And so here we have the window that represents my computer, and so I can navigate then to wherever my photo is at that I want to upload, and I'll choose that, and then I'm not going to go ahead through that process, but I'll choose that. It's pretty straightforward, and the last button is to upload the photo, and it'll put it into your library as we see here. Now I'm going to pick the picture that I want to insert, and it does just that in the location where my cursor was. Now, a word about photos. You really should resize them prior to upload, because it's going to display here the photo as it is uploaded. And so if we've uploaded a very, very large photo, that's what we're going to have. Now, you can resize it here, but you're really not resizing the photo. You're just resizing the way that it gets displayed. And so in an HTML editor, when somebody views this page, the editor, the email editor or the web browser, has to first upload the photo and then resize it to the size that we tell it to display here. So if you have a couple of large photos in an email or a web page in general, it becomes very cumbersome to upload those pictures for each user. And so it's best to get it approximately to the size we want it here. Now we can, by clicking, I click on it here and I can drag my little arrows here to resize this, and it will make it a little bit bigger or smaller, however we want to resize it. We can do that here, but again, remember, we're not actually resizing the photo, we're just resizing the display of the photo. Now, notice that we have the sentence here, and it's showing up down here at the bottom of the photo. That's a little cumbersome, a little ugly. We want to put this in a different place so it looks a little bit better. And as strange as it may seem, the way to do that is to change the settings of the photo. So again, I left-clicked on the photo. Now I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to choose Insert Edit Image to take us to the Edit screen. And over here on the Appearance tab, we have the ability to set the alignment. Now, on web pages, you're fairly limited in terms of where you can put a picture. It just doesn't give you a lot of flexibility in that unless you get a little fancy in terms of your layout. But basically, you're going to go left or right. That's pretty much your choices. And so I'm going to choose left. And by doing that, you can see over here, it shows me a little sample of what happens. By doing that, it moves the picture up, it moves the text up actually, and wraps it around the photo itself. And so we'll go ahead and click on Update, and it wants me to put in a description for this photo. I'm not going to do that now. But now you can see that it's put the text up here next to my photo, and it looks a little more normal. Now let me just create a little bit of a paragraph here. I'm going to just copy this a few times. So that's my paragraph, and you can see how that works. Now, if you look very closely, you can see that the photo itself is a little bit higher than the text, and there's really not a lot of space between the photo and the start of the text. And when it eventually wraps down around, it's actually going to wrap pretty close to the bottom as well. There's several ways to change that. If you understand and use HTML, you can actually go into the HTML view and do this a little bit easier, but there's a way to do that again by left-clicking on the picture. Now I'm going to right-click and come down here to Insert Edit Image again. And again, I'm going to go over here to the Appearance tab. And here I can change the vertical and the horizontal space. Now I just know from experience that 5, and really we could just put the number 5, but we're talking about 5 pixels here. 5 pixels will adjust the top and the bottom spacing around the picture. The horizontal spacing will change based on the number I put in here, and I'm just going to change this to 7. And you can see that it's giving me a little bit of a border now around this. Now when I click on Update, again it gives me that message. You can see that it has moved the picture down a little bit, and it's giving me a little bit of space around this the photo itself. And so as it wraps down around, it's going to give me just a little bit of a border or some padding, if you will, around that, and it'll make it look a little bit nicer. 3 spaces here at the top, or 3 pixels here at the top, might have been a better setting there, but you get the idea. So now I want to change my formatting. So let's say I want to change this first sentence, and I just want to bold everything here. For some reason I want that to stand out, and so I can do that. I might want to change the coloring, and I'll come over here and I'll just pick a word, and I've got a little button here that's going to allow me to change the coloring, and I click the little drop down and I select the color. I'll just make it red, and I might want to underline something, and so I can select that word again and come up here and underline and so forth. So now you can see how we can kind of format and make a reasonably good-looking email that we can send out to our constituents. So let me stop there, and we will continue in part 2.